and at the funeral, the poor woman had tried to drag him from his coffin. If she could not do so, she wanted to be buried in it with him. Her husband kept her from doing either one. Della wished there was something she could do to help, but there wasn't. The woman had lost her only son. It was about 10 days later, and Della had just left the pool where she worked part-time as a lifeguard after school until dusk. She was heading toward the cemetery where Jose was buried. She knew the area well. Her friend's father was the caretaker, and their home was on the cemetery property. They'd often had sleepovers and spent the nights trying to scare each other and outdo each other with ghost stories. The cemetery had never scared Della. She had felt something strange. Oddly, it had been a sense of warmth and comfort. It was considered historic for their area, being over 100 years old. There were only a few little family mausoleums in the cemetery, but there were stunning memorial statues, standing stones, and flat memorials surrounded by beautiful and lush trees. She loved the cemetery, but then she loved old churches and cemeteries, truly old ones: Winchester Cathedral in London, Westminster Abbey, Notre Dame, and so many in Rome and London. They'd visited so many. Her dad had said leaving donations was much cheaper than many things they might do on a European vacation. Della had her radio playing as she drove home from work. Yet that day, as she reached the southern end of the cemetery, she suddenly had nothing but dead air. In the silence, she frowned and changed the station, but nothing happened. She pulled off the road by the little coral wall that surrounded the place and looked in the cemetery. Jose wasn't buried far from the wall. She found herself tempted to jump over the 2.5 feet of coral that comprised the barrier. But she didn't. She should bring flowers to Jose's grave and do it by daylight when people were supposed to visit. Della had discovered the music stopped playing on her radio every time she passed by the little coral wall, a reminder that led to her stopping sometimes at night. The city lights from the street afforded her all the illumination she needed to reach Jose's grave. Della decided to bring flowers that weekend, and it felt good to go and tell her friend she missed him, and to almost feel as if he were there with her. She was back home for the summer after her first year of college, and the killer they called the Canal Carnivore arrived in South Florida. The man had eluded police in the west, the northeast, and had struck in Biloxi, Mississippi, before heading farther to the southeast. Right before Della had returned home to take up her job as a lifeguard for the summer, he had attacked and killed a young woman in the Brickell area, a divorcee living alone in a condominium and working for a local bank. His signature was the removal of a patch of skin from his victims, usually a 2x2 square that contained the belly button. The one witness who discovered the victim near the old church cemetery in New York by Wall Street had seen a disappearing hooded figure chewing on something bloody as he'd hurried toward the Hudson River. Thus, he'd been labeled the carnivore. He didn't bite the flesh out. That would leave marks for a dental impression. He didn't leave fingerprints or footprints anywhere. He didn't sexually assault his victims or torture them. He slit their throats and cut out his inches of flesh. He left no clues and had only been seen once calmly walking away from what would prove to be his victim. The canal part of his moniker came from the fact that several victims had been found near water, though Biscayne Bay was hardly a canal, and the Hudson River was, well, a river. Naturally, Della's parents had been concerned, but she had assured them she went to work and came straight home. They were always there when she returned, along with her mother's giant sheepdog that looked like a mop that could be as fierce as any pit bull or Rottweiler if he saw a member of the family threatened. They also lived in a friendly neighborhood and had automatic lights if she came home in the dark, along with a surprisingly modern alarm system. She was almost